Math 50, Section 6.1, Ratios and Rates. So what a ratio is, it's a comparison of two quantities. Sometimes the quantities are the same unit, sometimes they're not. We're going to talk about different types of ratios. So a ratio is, it's the same as a fraction. A ratio and a fraction are the same thing, but there's three different ways you can write a ratio. So a ratio is a comparison of two quantities. So let's say we're comparing 1 to 2. You're going to write 1. You can either have the word 2 in the middle. You can have a fraction, and the first number is going to be the numerator, and the number after the word 2 is the denominator all the time. And then the third way is with the colon, and that's 2 dots, 1 to 2. These are all three different ways to write a ratio. Okay, so there's some reading if you need to do it, but the very first question very simply says, write the ratio of 21 to 29 using fractional notation. So the first number is the numerator and the second number is the denominator. So the word 2 is the division sign. Now, if you can reduce this, you should always reduce your ratios, okay? The second problem is an example of what I just talked about. It wants you to write the ratio. We're comparing $15 to $10 and write it as a fraction in simplest form. So $15 would be your numerator. Your denominator will be $10, okay? And you can reduce both of these. 5 goes into both of these numbers. So your answer is 3 over 2. Okay? Next example. What happens when you have a decimal? So in other words, it says compare 2.5 to 3.15, and we want it as a fraction in simplest form. So we've got 2.5 over 3.15. So what we want to do is get rid of these decimals. So in the denominator, we would have to move this decimal 2 places over. So you have to move the numerator 2 places over. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. It's the same as multiplying both of these by 100 because there's 2 decimal places, so that would equate to 100. So if I move this 2 places over, I have to move this 2 places over. So the numerator becomes 250, the denominator becomes 315. So here's your fraction, but now we have to simplify this. So both of these can be divided by 5, okay? So if I divided these both by 5, you end up with 50 over 63, and that's basically all you can do with that, okay? Now, what happens when you have mixed numbers? So I want to compare 2 and 5/8 to 8 and 3/4. Now, what I would do is I would turn this into a improper fraction. So how you do that, again, this is review. 8 times 2 is 16, and then add 5, so that's 21. So this is 21 over 8. And then the bottom is 8 times 4 is 32, plus 3 is 35 over 4. Okay, so now, when this is a complex fraction, you have a fraction divided by a fraction. You keep, we talked about this in one of the previous chapters, you're going to keep 21/8 and you're going to flip and multiply 4 over 35. Okay, so I know that 4 and 8, I can reduce this by 4. I get 1. 4 goes into 8 2 times. I also know we can divide each of these by 7, okay? 7 goes into 21 3 times, and 7 goes into 35 5 times. So now that's all the reducing we can do. So we're going to multiply across. 3 times 1 is 3, over 2 times 5 is 10. So 3/10 is the answer to this comparison, this ratio, and it's in simplest form, 3/10. So you're going to turn the mixed number into an improper fraction, both of them, and then you keep the numerator, flip, and multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? Next one. And I gave you this one. I left the picture because it's too hard to draw all this stuff out. But you have a circle graph at the right, and it shows you shows the part of a car's total mileage that falls into a particular category. They want you to write the ratio of family business miles. So it's family business miles, family miles to the total. Okay, and it wants it as a fraction in simplest form. So we've got to go to our circle graph and pull out the information for family miles. So we look at this family miles, it says 3,000. So it's 3,000 to the total, I spelled that wrong, T-O-T-A-L, sorry. 3,000 to the total they gave it to you is 15,000. Now, if they don't give you the total, what you would have to do is add all of these up, but they gave it to you. So now we're going to compare 3,000 over 15,000. Now, when you always want to simplify your fractions. Each zero cancels out. It's like dividing it by 10. Well, this one you can divide each of them by 1,000. And then 3 and 15, you can reduce them by 3. So it's 1, 3 goes into 15 5 times. So it's 1/5. Okay. Moving along. We have example 6. Example 6, they give you a rectangle. And it is asking you to find the ratio of its width, the shorter side, this is the width right here, to its length, the longer side. So for A, if the width is 5, so A would be it's the width to the length. The width is 5, the length is 7, so it's 5 to 7. For B, it's asking you for the ratio of its length. B is asking for the length, L-E-N-G-T-H, sorry, can't spell today, over perimeter. Okay, the length is 7, and the perimeter is adding up all the sides. So you've got 2 that are 5, so that's 10. And 7 and 7 is 14. So the perimeter is 24. So the ratio of the length, which is 7, the perimeter is 5, 5, 7, and 7, which is 24. So the ratio would be 7 over 24, 7 to 24. Okay? Next section, we're going to talk about writing rates as a fraction. Okay, so sometimes you have ratios, which you have ratios that are in the same unit and some are not. So here's one example of when it's in the same units. If it's in the same units, you're going to have, this one says 3, we're comparing 3 inches to 12 inches. The inches cancel out and then you just reduce 1 to 4. But if the units are not the same, like this one's saying 2 miles to 20 minutes, you're going to reduce the 2 and the 20. You get 1 over 10, but you can't cancel these units out. So sometimes you can cancel the units out, and that's what we've been doing in the past. Now, you're going to see some examples where you're going to have to keep them. Okay, so now, example 7. You're asked to write each rate as a fraction in simplest form. So this first one is comparing 2,160 for 12 weeks. So the word for is another way for to understand the division sign. So it's like or per, for or per. So $2160, we're comparing dollars over 12 weeks. So in this case, you can't cancel these out, but what you will do is reduce, each of these are divisible by 12. So if you do the math, or however you want to reduce it, write them as factors. If you want to do it that way and cancel the factors out, that's fine. But you can reduce these each. You can go by 2 first, and then another, I believe another 2, yep, and then 3. So that works. So you end up with $180 over 1 week. Okay. For example number 8, this one compares 360 miles. So on is another word for the division sign. So for, on, and per. So 360 miles over 16 gallons. So this, I can reduce these each by 2. You get 180. And then you can reduce it again by 2. And I believe one more time over 2. And you end up with 45 miles over 2 gallons. Okay. Next, example 9. Okay. Now we're talking about a unit rate, and what that is, it's a unit rate. You're going to see what it costs for 1 unit of something, finding the rate for 1 unit. So like if you were to buy a bag of lemons at the store, and there's 12 lemons, and it's let's say, so you have a bag of lemons and there's 12 lemons in the bag, and it costs let's say $12 for simplicity's sake, $12 for the bag. You're gonna put $12 over 12, and that would be $1 a lemon. Okay, so here's an example, example number 9, write as a unit rate. So what you want to do is compare, we're comparing 31,500, and it's always the cost. It's cost per unit, okay? We have 31,500 per or every 7 months. Okay, so a unit rate would be, we want to know what it's going to cost for 1 month. Unit means 1. So what you want to do here, you're going to end up dividing 7 is your divisor, 31,500, and we did this already. So first what you're going to do is 7 goes into 31 4 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract, you get 3, 35. 7 times 5 is 35. Subtract, you get a 0. Bring down, you're going to end up with 2 more zeros. So for this one, 7 did go into it without a remainder. Sometimes it will not. Okay, so that's why you need to do this long division. So for this case, for 31,500 every 7 months, it's really 4,500 every 1 month. So it's $4,500 every 1 month. Okay, here's another one. And this one is a good example. It's not going to go into it evenly. So we have 337.5 miles for 15 gallons. So it's miles over gallons. Okay, so we want to know, let's say, how far the car is going to go on 1 gallon. So you're going to do your division. 15 goes into 337.5. Okay, so 15 goes into 33 2 times. That's 30. Subtract 7. 15 times 2 is 30. Subtract 7. Bring down the 5. 15 times 5 is 75. So it's 22.5 miles for 1 gallon. 22.5 miles for 1 gallon. Okay. Another thing you're going to end up doing is finding the price for 1 unit. So, example 11. We have, it says a store charges $3.36 and this is what I was talking about with the lemons. We want to know like the price per one of an item that they're talking about. So if it's you always put price on top. So it's $3.36 for a 16-ounce jar. Okay, we want to know what is the unit price per per 1 ounce. So again, you're going to do your long division. Okay, you're going to say 16 goes into $3.36, and you really need to make sure you understand this long division. So 16 goes into 33 2 times, and you're going to subtract, and 16 goes into 16 once. So this is 21 cents per ounce. And this is a good example for like when, let's say when you go to Costco or Sam's Club and you're buying in bulk quantity, what you want to do is compare the unit price. So you want to compare apples with apples. You want to see how much per ounce this jar is versus the jar at, let's say, Kroger, and that will tell you the better buy. Obviously, the cheaper, the better. So example 12, and here's exactly what I'm talking about. We need this information to figure out, what's the most cost-efficient thing to buy. So we have two things of soap, and I'm just going to show it to you right here. So one is we're comparing 4 bars of soap for $3.99, or do you want 5 bars for $4.59? Remember, when you're comparing each one, it's always price over the number of units. So for this one that was $3.99, we have $3.99 over 4. When you do your division, this one works out to be approximately $1 per bar. This one is $4.59 for 5 bars, and this one ends up being 92 cents per bar. So which one is the better buy? It's this one that had 5